So, next up is one of our longer talks by one of our local tech companies. Now, I've known the people from Candour for a while. We seem to share office space areas quite a lot, and we've been in close proximity to each other. Now, they're lovely, lovely people, and I'm not just saying that because they're live streaming this, and it's been recorded. But I was rather expecting Mark to be doing the talk, and all of my research is taking the piss out of this man here. And it's this man here, John, who's actually doing the talking. I've already worked out that it's more beard is less senior. It's less hair is basically more senior in the company. Your time starts now.
Now. Good evening. Oh, I've got to multitask with this and that. So, good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes, this is all a bit sort of X-Factor with the mic. I'm not used to doing this bit and talking, so I'll do my best. Thanks for having me tonight. Thanks for coming out on what is a cold Monday evening, so it's good to see you here, and to listen to me waffling on for the next 20 minutes about how businesses can win. Oh, you've got to do that bit. How businesses can win digital products. Hey! My name's John Skinner. I'm Creative Director at Candour. We're a creative digital agency based in Norwich, just down the road off Duke Street, Milspole Street. We're a team of 9, so we're a small but perfectly formed team of designers, developers, and digital marketers. We tend to exist more in the webby space than we do the software space, but you'll see later on that we do touch upon that. What really excites us is when those spaces collide, so that customers can interact with businesses on a deeper, more engaging level than just, say, your standard, we've got a website. So that's where we get excited. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the future. By the measure of the predictions of the 1950s, we're actually living in the future in terms of the tech that we're using now. We have got computers on our wrists. They might not be telecasting from the moon, but we can talk to each other on them and do some clever things. We've got electric cars. I've got one that plugs in like that. We've got bloody great TVs that sit on the wall. And we've got electric home libraries, not in the sense of actual libraries like that, but obviously through iPads and laptops and that sort of thing, and even on our phones we've got access to the world's information. So we're pretty much there. And in fact, we've gone further than that, in ways that people in the 1950s wouldn't have predicted. Would they have envisaged this scene as being the future? I'm not entirely sure they would. We can access... Well, I say we can access love. That sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? But we can find love, we can find food, and we can find entertainment and knowledge, all from the comfort of our own sofa through our glowing devices and the big bloody great thing on the wall that we all have. So we can do pretty much all of our basic needs without ever leaving the house. And I suppose, in all seriousness, it shows just sort of how endless the possibilities are for opportunities for businesses to engage with their customers in different ways, in different places that they might not have foreseen. And to use digital technology as a tool for growth, as a tool to interact and to communicate. So if it were that easy, that would be the scene outside our front door every Monday morning of businesses clamoring to get in and get hold of tech. I think businesses do understand that tech is an opportunity for them. But that being the case, and there being that many businesses and that few digital agencies, why isn't that happening? Why am I still up on stage doing things like this to make us more visible, so people understand we're here and still doing sales? What's missing in the picture? What's the problem? Why aren't people, more engaged in that way? And I think, is that working? Yeah. So what often should be a race to the future feels like something far less dynamic, far more problematic. There's hurdles, there's obstacles, there's difficulties. When we engage with clients, they've often got sort of tales of woe of previous projects that have gone wrong or don't work or were just far too expensive or they just don't know where to turn, really. So why is that? Why does this process feel torturous when it should be pretty easy and pretty much, a race to the future? So I didn't have an answer to that question. I turned to the internet and asked my friends and business colleagues and people I barely know on LinkedIn to give me the answers. I wanted to know what their top objections were, their problems, their fears about investing in digital technology. We in tech have probably sort of some common assumptions about what those are, so I thought, actually, let's ask the people themselves. Now, these are all genuine responses. The first one I had was this. I don't know if it refers to the beards themselves or the people wearing them, but, you know, that's actually probably quite a good beard and puts my sort of ginger fuzz in the shade, and that's something maybe to aspire to. This, again, is a genuine response. Not... I absolutely swear that was the second response I had. I'm not naming names, Harry, Harold, or Paul Grenier. I'll tell you who that was later. And then we get into the more serious responses. Time was common across, I'd say, about 75% of the responses that I had. When I say 75%, it's not scientific. I haven't actually sort of broken down the responses. This is just sort of off the top of my head stuff. But time, the time it takes to actually engage with a project as a business. I think unless you're of quite a big business, the digital project you're undertaking will be one of a number of plates that you're spinning at any one time. And I won't sugarcoat it, there's no magic pill. It does take time. And if you want to do it properly and to collaborate, then yes, you need to plan for that. I think us as technology service providers need to be a bit kinder in terms of our planning, to give you the time to be flexible, to create the tools to help you engage when you're not actually physically in the room, that sort of stuff. But certainly, as I say, that's something you need to plan for and something we can't necessarily fix. It is going to take time. Secondly, obviously, the big thing, money. Almost like a figure is plucked out of the air, and to the uninitiated, it seems unbelievably expensive. Obviously, that's something we come across as the principal objection is we can't afford this. I wonder sometimes, is that based in, have you forecasted sort of specific ROI for this? Have you looked at what you're going to be measuring? Are you just seeing this as a necessary spend or a strategic investment? If it's the latter, then obviously it's easier to justify that upfront spend. Okay, you have to have that money in the first place, but it's easier to justify that and maybe sell that internally. So that's quite a big point. Also related to money, but a little bit around the communication of this, it's like going to the garage and ending up paying more to fix your car because you want to look like you understand. I know I've done that, and that actually rung quite true with me, that I'm stood there talking to the blokey guy who fixes cars, and I don't want to look like the geek that doesn't understand what he's talking about. So when he's selling me the flux capacitor on the widgety sprocket, yeah, that sounds good, yeah, give me one of those. And actually, I haven't had the guts to say, I don't understand this. And I think that's quite important when you're engaging with tech companies. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. I mean, I'm a creative director. I don't know half the things that my developers are telling me. So I do the kid thing of just saying why until I get the answer that I understand. And sometimes that can take quite a long time. Don't be afraid to do that, and don't be, just lose that idea that, you're going to be laughed at. If you are laughed at in that scenario, clearly they're not the, the service provider to be working with. Obviously, understanding and choosing between the different options. With tech, there are probably 1,000 different ways of skinning a cat. I think some of that comes down to, are you giving us enough information up front to tell you which cat you're supposed to be skinning and how to do it? That's probably far enough I'm going to go with that analogy. So at one extreme, a few companies come up to us and say, we need a website. And so clearly, there could be a million different options for giving you a website. At the other end, we've got people coming to us with very detailed briefs on marketing objectives, the KPIs they want to hit. They've got a future strategy for what the technology needs to support, so on and so forth. Suddenly, from having a million different options, we're down to, single-digit options of what's possible and what's feasible. So some of this is us explaining better to you guys. Some of it's you actually coming to us with a better picture of what you need to do and a better understanding of what you're trying to achieve in the long term. That will just drastically narrow down your options. Related to that is, the whole tech speak thing. This came up in pretty much all the responses I had. For anyone that is techie, don't try and read that and get any meaning from it. It's from a tech jargon generator online and probably doesn't mean anything at all. But does it, Paul? Does any of that? No, none of it makes sense. It's gobbledygook, yeah. But I can appreciate from sort of your perspective, that's often how, the solutions that we're presenting to you come across. We're talking about the code, we're talking about the platforms, we're saying that why PHP is better than .NET, or why, I don't know, I lose track of actual acronyms and things, being a colouring in person, not a techie person. But I think it's fair to say that we lapse into that far too easily, because as techie people selling techie things, that's what's comfortable. We don't actually talk about the benefits. We don't talk about why you should be choosing that particular solution as much as we should be. So given that things are too expensive, we don't understand it, we haven't got the time, is it any wonder that apparently this is the case? Now, I'm not sure about what they mean by fail, and I'm not sure about the source of this, but I read it on Forbes, so it's probably a little bit true. Now, it's a big number anyway, it's quite a scary number, and as a sort of person here trying to encouraging you to get into digital projects, it's probably not that encouraging to see. But I think there's a reason for this, and it's not scientific, but I think essentially we've got what is called the pedestal effect for technology. We look at digital as the answer to everything without really questioning why. So the digital itself becomes the solution that's going to fix all your problems or solve all the issues you've got within your business. When actually, this is the takeaway, just doing digital isn't the answer. We've got to think beyond the platforms, we've got to think beyond the tech and look at something a little bit bigger. So, think business, not just systems. And business is about people. What's the problem you're trying to solve here? What's the opportunity that you could take? Can you use digital as a vehicle to improve how you interact with customers? A means of not just a means of replacing real people with bits of code. How are you going to measure that success? In all other parts of your business, you've got measures in place. You're looking for specific KPIs that you make sure that you're on the right track. You've got to do that with your digital products as well. And are those metrics, are they focused on the short-term gain of, well, we're going to save a bit of money here or make a bit more money there? Or is it longer-term stuff? Is it customer-focused KPIs, how happy they are, how long they've been with you and how likely they are to stay with you? So that's the sort of thing that you can build in to help make sure you're a success. How am I doing for time? 7 minutes. We're going to be okay. We're going to be all right. So I'm going to finish with a very quick case study of a project that we completed, I think, Mark, was it in sort of June, July this year? It's an 18-month project, hugely technical undertaking for City Hire. They're a tool hire company based in London. Does what the name says on the tin. They drive around within the M25 delivering breakers, toilets, ladders and all sorts to construction firms around London. It's a complicated process, and it's answering some quite complex needs in terms of locations and so on. They knew from their research that people hated tool hire companies within the construction world. They're not transparent in their pricing. You get an invoice at the end of the month. You've had no real idea before then what you're spending. They're slow to respond. They're happy for your tools to stay on site if you've forgotten about them for as long as possible so they can keep charging you money. They don't really care about that as long as they're raking it in. Construction workers generally just not that happy with them. So they saw an opportunity here, one, through a digital platform to grow, but also to grow through a better experience, not just by replacing people with code. So this is the situation they had previously. We have our users and customers on the left there, and we have the ERP system, which is an enterprise resource planning system, for those who aren't familiar, which is essentially the guts of the business. It's where all the orders go through, it's how they process orders, it's how they know what their stock levels are, it's how they work out where they're going to deliver and how they deliver. It's the whole bit of the business, really. And actually, there's nothing between the two apart from the customer service agent. Now, effectively, if you want to grow and you want to scale that business, that's going to be quite hard to do. For every 10 companies that you add, you've got to add a new customer service agent. That's quite expensive. There's training, so on and so forth. You've got to look after people. You've got to make sure that they stay alive, and you've got to make sure that they're paid. So what we did, quite simply, was rather than just... Oh, actually, and even... Oh, that didn't work. We did this. We went a little bit Wicker Man, and we removed the people from the process. Crucially, we didn't remove them from the business. And we replaced them with a new website. The old website, people could order, but those customer service agencies were doing the sort of data entry of those new orders and putting it into the system. So it didn't scale. Everything was done through data entry and everything's done through people. And those customer service agents were just becoming bots, really, just taking information and putting it into a system. We can do that. We built this service gateway that spoke to the ERP software through the website, and that opened up the whole possibility of turning those customer service agents into real customer support people. They didn't get rid of them. They were just doing a better job and doing a real job of actually speaking to people and helping them. And in answering some of the problems that we had previously from the tool hire companies, we could now give customers direct access to paperwork. We could give them the transparency they wanted on pricing. They could see at any point in the month what they were spending, where their tools were, and they can off-hire, which is the process of cancelling your order. They can do that at will from site. So if they're thinking, well, why is that still here? They just press a button and it's collected the next day. So giving them real feeling of control. So really, what we've done there is we haven't just removed the people and replaced it with code. We've used those people to do something better, and the code is doing something far deeper and far more engaging than those customer service agencies could do in the first place, thereby supporting the dual role of, well, we're enabling this business to grow now, we can scale at any level, but also creating a better customer service interaction. And there's a screen there, what they can do. So they've got control of their spend, they've got the off-hiring, they get the access to delivery notes and so on and so forth, which means that actually City Hire get paid quicker too. Because one of the common complaints was, well, you haven't sent us the collection note, you haven't sent us the delivery note, unless we've got those two things, we can't pay you. When actually they have sent them, it's an excuse, whereas now there's no excuse. They can point to it on the system and say, there's those bits of documentation, can you pay us now? So actually, cash flow's better as well. So, I'm going to be under time. You're going to love me for this. Hey! As a very short takeaway, I'd say to be a success in undertaking a digital platform, think about people, not just the platform. Thank you. John Skinner from Candour.